Ever notice how you can just tell when someone's a native English speaker? You know, it's something beyond just perfect grammar, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like there's a certain flow, a natural way of speaking.
Yeah.
Well, today on the Deep Dive, we are going deep on exactly that.
Thanks.
We're talking about how to unlock that natural fluency in English, and we've got some really interesting tips to unpack.
Looking forward to it.
We're actually pulling these from a podcast script called Unlock Your Fluency, Tips to Speak English Like a Native.
Catchy title.
So think of this deep dive as your cheat sheet, your shortcut to sounding more like a native speaker.
I like that.
You know, getting past just the textbook stuff and really sounding natural and confident.
Absolutely. And the script jumps right into something I think a lot of people miss when they're learning a language.
What's that?
It's that fluency, true fluency, isn't just about knowing a ton of vocabulary or nailing every grammar rule.
Right.
It's more than that. It's about capturing that kind of musicality of the language.
The music of the language.
Yeah, exactly. The way native speakers kind of weed everything together.
I like that.
You know, they really highlight this in the script by focusing on natural speech patterns right off the bat.
Makes sense.
And it makes a really interesting point about intonation, like that rise and fall of your voice, and how that plays with rhythm and speed. You know, like those are all key factors in sounding natural.
Oh, for sure.
So the first tip is listen actively.
But I feel like we all listen all the time, right? So what's different about actively listening?
Right, it's not just about having your ears open, you know. It's about really tuning into how native speakers use their voices.
I see what you mean.
Like, think about how someone sounds when they're excited about something
Yeah,
versus, say, when they're asking a question.
totally.
And it's not just the words they use, it's the whole like melody they create with their voice, right?
It's true.
So the script emphasizes that paying attention to those subtle shifts can really help you unlock that extra layer of meaning.
The emotional layer.
Exactly.
Because I mean, sometimes if you're just looking at a word in a dictionary, you can miss that whole emotional piece of it.
For sure, and that's where the next tip comes in. This one's called shadowing technique.
Shadow technique. Okay.
And it's such a cool way to actually internalize those sounds, you know, the intonation, the rhythm, the whole thing.
So how does it work?
So picture this. You're basically becoming like an echo, right?
Okay.
You're listening to short snippets of native speakers talking.
Like from a movie or something?
Exactly. It could be a line from a movie, a bit from a podcast, anything, really.
Okay.
And then you try to repeat it in real time, like as you're hearing it.
Got it.
But you're not just mimicking the words, you're trying to copy their pronunciation.
Right.
The rhythm, even those tiny little pauses they might take, you know?
It's like you're really embodying that speech pattern.
Precisely. It's about getting those sounds and that flow into your system, almost like muscle memory for speaking.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, because it really helps bridge that gap between knowing the rules and actually like feeling the language in your mouth.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Now the script shifts gears a bit,
Okay.
moves from the sounds of English to the actual words we use.
Vocabulary.
But again, it's not just about memorizing endless word lists.
Right, because you can know a lot of words but still not sound natural. right?
Exactly, and that's where tip number 3 comes in. Learn colloquial expressions.
Those everyday phrases that native speakers just throw around.
Yeah, exactly. It's the stuff you probably won't find in a textbook.
No, totally.
But it's how people actually talk. You know, it makes you sound like you belong.
It's like the secret code of the language.
Totally.
So give me some examples, like what kind of colloquial expressions are we talking about?
Okay, so the script gives a really good example.
Okay.
Instead of saying something formal like, I comprehend your statement.
Yeah, no one says that.
Right, exactly. A native speaker would probably just say, I get it.
I get it much more natural.
Or I'm on the same page.
I'm on the same page, yeah.
It seems like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference.
It does.
You know, it shows that understand the casual register of English.
It's like you're in the club.
You got it.
And then tip number 4 builds on this idea of having a strong vocabulary.
Yes.
But it goes a step further. It's use synonyms and antonyms.
It's so smart because it forces you to think beyond just one word for something.
Right.
You know, like if you only know one way to say happy, your conversations might feel a bit, well, flat.
Limited.
Yeah, but if you could also say joyful, content, or elated, suddenly you've got all these options.
Yeah, your speech gets so much richer.
Exactly, and that's what makes it engaging. You know, you're not repeating the same words over and over.
So we're building this awesome toolkit here.
Right.
We're listening for the music of the language.
Yes.
We're practicing those sounds with the shadowing technique.
Uh-huh.
And we're loading up on vocabulary with those everyday phrases and all these different synonyms and antonyms.
It's all coming together.
But then the script hits us with something super important.
What's that?
It's the actual doing part, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Putting all this knowledge into practice.
Real deal.
And that's where tip number 5 comes in, which is engage in conversations.
It sounds simple enough, but it can be intimidating, right?
For sure.
Especially when you're still learning.
Totally.
But the script is totally right when it says you got to go beyond just passive learning.
Right.
You know, like you need to actually use the language.
Yeah.
So they recommend finding language partners, maybe joining a conversation club, or even using apps or websites to connect with native speakers.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, it's all about creating those real world opportunities to actually speak, you know, to put what you're learning to the test.
I love that.
And then this leads us to tip number 6, which is all about conquering a really big fear.
So fear is that.
The fear of making mistakes.
Oh man, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's huge.
I mean, I think everyone feels that when they're learning something new.
Especially a language, right?
Yeah.
Because you're putting yourself out there.
You are.
But the script makes such an important point.
What's that?
That mistakes are totally normal.
Yeah.
They're part of the process.
They're how you learn.
It's like learning to walk, you know?
Right.
You're going to stumble a few times before you get your balance.
For sure.
And most native speakers, they get that.
Yeah.
They appreciate the effort you're making to communicate.
They do.
So letting that fear hold you back, that's one of the biggest roadblocks to fluency.
You're so right.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You might fall, but you get back on.
Keep going.
Now, the script circles back to the importance of listening.
Okay.
With tip number 7, which is consistent exposure to English.
So it's like listening, but even more so.
It's about making English a regular part of your life, you know?
Like surrounding yourself with it.
Exactly. So the script recommends immersing yourself in English through different media.
Okay.
Like listening to music,
Yeah.
podcasts, the news, even just having English radio playing in the background.
I do that sometimes.
It's all about that consistent exposure.
Even if you're not actively paying attention all the time.
Exactly. Because your brain is still picking things up.
It's absorbing it.
It's like osmosis.
I like that.
Your brain gets used to the sounds, the rhythms, the patterns of English just by being around it.
That's cool.
Now, tip number 8 is imitate native speakers.
Imitate native speakers. So is that kind of like shadowing?
It's similar, but it's a bit more deliberate.
Okay.
So with shadowing, you're kind of repeating in real time.
Right.
But with imitation, you're choosing specific moments to focus on.
Gotcha.
Like maybe a theme from your favorite movie or a powerful part of a speech.
Okay.
And you really take the time to break it down.
So you might pause it, rewind it.
Exactly. You can analyze it and then try to match everything.
The pronunciation.
The intonation, even those subtle emotional cues in the speaker's voice.
That's impressive.
It's like a more focused, intentional kind of mimicry.
Yeah. Like acting school for language learning.
Yeah, kind of.
Now, as we get towards the end, the script gets really practical with its advice.
Okay.
It's all about staying motivated and on track.
Love that.
And tip number 9 is set realistic goals.
That's crucial for anything, right?
I think so, especially with language learning, because it's a journey, it's not a sprint.
It's a marathon, for
Yes,
sure.
exactly.
So the script suggests breaking down your learning into smaller, manageable chunks.
Okay.
Instead of being like, I want to be fluent, you know, which is this big, overwhelming goal.
Right.
You set smaller goals, like maybe learning 5 new colloquialisms a week.
Yeah.
Or practicing speaking for 15 minutes every day.
That feels more doable.
Exactly. And then you can actually track your progress, which helps you stay motivated.
Oh, yeah. And those little wins feel good.
Totally.
And then finally, tip number 10.
This one's huge.
Yeah, I think it might be the most important one, especially long term.
You're probably right.
It's stay positive and patient.
It's so true.
Because language learning can be frustrating sometimes.
It can.
You hit these plateaus.
You do.
You feel like you're not making progress.
It's normal.
But the script reminds us that it takes time, dedication, and you gotta keep bouncing back from those setbacks.
Resilience. Resilience.
And they make a really good point.
What's that?
That consistent effort, even when it feels slow, it really does pay off in the end.
It's like anything worth doing, it takes time.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap.
Love a good recap.
We've gone through these 10 tips for speaking English more fluently and naturally.
We have.
And we started with listen actively.
Yes.
And the shadowing technique to really tune in to those natural speech patterns.
That's great.
Then we talked about expanding your vocabulary with colloquial expressions
Everyday language.
and using synonyms and antonyms to make your speech more varied.
More colorful.
Exactly.
And less repetitive.
Yes, and then we hit on the importance of actually putting it all into practice.
So by engaging in conversations and not letting the fear of mistakes hold you back, which is don't be afraid to make mistakes. Classic.
But so important.
Then we talked about consistent exposure to English
Surround yourself with it.
and the more deliberate practice of imitating native speakers.
Get those nuances.
And finally, we wrapped up with the importance of setting realistic goals
And track.
and keeping that positive and patient mindset.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And you know what strikes me about all these tips?
What's that?
It's that they're all connected.
Well, they are.
You know, it's not enough to just focus on one thing.
Right.
Real fluency comes from this whole approach.
It's holistic.
It is.
You know, you're actively listening, you're practicing speaking, you're building your vocabulary in a smart way.
And you're staying positive throughout the journey.
That's the key.
So for you, listening right now,
Yes.
I'm curious, which of these tips feels like something you can actually act on?
Yeah. What resonates with you?
Maybe it's finally finding a language partner.
Taking the plunge.
Or maybe it's committing to just 5 minutes a day of shadowing practice.
Small steps.
Yeah, think about one concrete action you can take based on what we talked about today.
I love that.
And you know, it doesn't have to be a huge thing.
No.
It's those small, consistent steps
Those add up.
that lead to big results.
The fluency.
Fluency, to sounding natural, to feeling confident in your English.
And most importantly, to enjoying the journey.
Exactly. Have fun with it.
That's the best part.
So keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep that positive attitude going.
You got this.
And until next time on The Deep Dive, happy language learning.
Keep diving in.